Alright everybody, Mind's Eye Visual Guitar Methods here, back in action for an amazing, I think amazing lesson today called the Jazz Blues, Dominant Blues, Soloing Secrets. How you can basically do these four things after this solo here. You're going to be able to modulate, which is what you need to do to solo. This really the secret to soloing over this blues is to catch the changes involved with each of these three dominant chords that are involved in the three chords of the blues, and that involves modulating. So you're going to get like what you learned today will actually be that concept today, even though we're just going to learn it in reference to the blues. And so we've got the tritone. We're going to learn about that today. In this lesson, we learn about dominant chords, which is the chords of the dominant blues. It uses three dominant chords, and soloing, as we just said, in a blues structure. And the keys to like hitting the real, there's some notes that change as the modulation changes, but it's only one note. And if you know that magic note, you can really sound like you know what you're doing up there. You can sound like the guy with the Hawaiian shirt and the acid wash jeans up there on stage at the Jazz Blues open mic night, and you can sound like you know what you're doing like he does. So, because this would be like, basically the magic of what's going on is going to be discovered here, and it's so easy, you're never going to believe that. You can use a pentatonic structure to house all the ideas in one compact thing, and perhaps there's another version where it's two different, but don't worry about it. It's like what I'm trying to say, totally easy. You're never going to believe this. So, just to start with here, look at this right here. Speaking of tritones, let's learn about that right now. This little shape right here, just like many shapes on the guitar fretboard, like power chord. 1 and 5. We all know that sound, right? Speaking of power chords and my explanations here, I am going to be teaching this lesson as if I'm trying to communicate with a real beginner that just happened to stumble on this lesson and thinks, well, I'll give it a try. Maybe this guy can teach me something, even though I don't know anything about anything. I'll try to make it so even someone like that could understand. So that will be some of the real detailed instructions that some of the people watching may kind of already know. You just want me to get to the magic secrets of soloing that you may not already know. But if you know this stuff, then you probably already know this. But anyways, modulating over the soloing in a jazz blues context. So, just like you have some common structures that are the same anywhere you play them, root 5, root 5, root 5, root 5, root 5, root 5, not root 5, root 5, root 5, root 5. Anyways, you get the point. Now, if I take that 5 and I lower it 1, you see it turns into this little angle right here. And anywhere I play that angle is a tritone, except for, like every shape, in between the G and B string, it changes a little bit and we go back to that power chord shape. But we're going to see that in a little bit. Let's just say that we know right now, okay, when I see this little angle here, I'm playing a tritone. Let me lower that volume just a touch, not to destroy your ears. So, the tritone. Now, if we heard this, you notice here that there's three tritone. There's this tritone. Let's just talk about the green one here. Way up here at the 8th fret. And now you can hear it's at that really unsettled European ambulance sound, right? Alright, so we've got that. And then if we go down 1 fret here to where this one, let's call it the 4. And in blue, our blue tritone. And then up above the green tritone, we have this orange tritone. Now, if we play those, that just sounds like there's some kind of garbage going on. What does this have to do with? A kind of abbreviated blues there. But anyways, all these nice chords. know, something like that. This doesn't sound anything kind of like that until maybe. So sort of, kind of, is here some kind of like a bluesy, sounded sort of like that progression. So we're working our way into it. So we're working our way back to you. All right. Um. So modulating, tritone, dominant chords. Let's get into the chords. Let's get into the basic movement. We're going to be dealing with the key of A today, and we'll eventually play an A backing track to figure it all out. So where are we going to find the blues in the key of A? Well, now we could just go A, and we need a 4. And if we'll just pretend we know that. For the beginners won't know that the 4 is D. Way up here. If we want to keep the same chord shape, we're down here, then we're way up here, and then we're playing the E for the 5 chord, back down to the 4 chord, down to the 1 chord. Alright? But that's all over the neck. And we want to consolidate our chord shapes to one spot, and it's going to kind of help us figure this thing out here, where it came from and why it works. When I was originally taught this, it was down low on the strings, and I could never really, it took me, I just threw it away for so many years because it was kind of like, yeah, that sort of makes sense, but because it wasn't in, they didn't put it, they always leave something out, I swear to God. They being like a lot of other teachers. I teach it up here because this is where you're going to solo. This is where you're going to want to have all that information. Yeah, it'll work down here, and you want to solo here too, but most of our solos are up here, right? All right, and up here, and we're going to show you how to do this way up here today, because there's like a little second structure that's identical to this one. You're not even going to believe that it exists, but it does, and cool. So let's just start with finding, knowing all that. Let's start with our basic 1, 4, 5. We'll go to a new, I already did it here when I was recording my last lesson. So here it's already mapped out on the board. We have 1. Like I said, we could use the roots up here, but we're going to use 1. Now here's a little secret for you. You want to find a 4 on the guitar, a 1 to 4, just like you can find the 5 right there, like a power chord. Well, 5, flat 5, 4. 4 is always below the root or towards the floor, and 5 is always on top, but we don't have that B string, so we have to substitute with our 5 up here. Still pretty cool. And the only time that doesn't work, everything I say about these shapes, we always know that I'm going to tell you, except across the G and B string, you have that exception where the B string moves everything towards the pickups 1 fret. So you would have the system looking like this, or more like this. But we're not going to deal with that down there today. We just want to know this root movement right here, because that's going to get our chords in a cluster. And we want our chords in a cluster. So speaking of chords, now it's time to build we know our pattern here. It's our L shape. You always find, by the way, I'll give you some extra tidbits where it's helpful to learn, just like you got the major chords in the key of A, the 1, the 4, the 5 right there. You can always find your minor chords up or down. Anyways, wherever you find them, they're also in an L shape here. But that's not part of our lesson, so we're not going to drift off on that. But just so you know, this is a very handy way to find things in your major scale chord progressions and stuff. Your minor chords are 6, 2, and 3. And if these numbers of chords are sounding crazy today, or any of this chord explanation is lost on you, see, all you need to do, I'll try to put it in the description below, but yesterday's lesson is a chord scale lesson, and that'll explain exactly what I'm talking about here. This information is chord scale information. So, but however, I'll have to redo that lesson because I know I was rewatching it and I messed up on I reversed the colors. I started talking about there's 2 different colors, and I had them reversed from what I put on the screen, so it was really kind of dumb, but hey, that's what happens when you're live. So hey, that's what happens. All right, so we got a Macarena note up here. We're going to put this, let's start by, let's build the number one, the dominant chord. But before we build it on our, oh, we did build it here. Awesome. Okay, so before we do that, let's go over real quick the structure. How are these chords even built? So we have the, starting with a root. A chord always has the choice of threes, and then the fifth. The fifth, as we discovered from that power chord sound, a chord lesson here, is the outer shell of any chord, because they're just such great companions harmonically that they just kind of work as like a structure surrounding the and to build a nice complete harmony. Plus there's deeper things like the overtone structure and stuff like that, but more stuff than a beginner needs to know. We just need to know that we need a root and a five if you don't know anything about chords, and then but I do have to assume you do, so we don't tangent off too much here. And a choice of thirds, so a minor third or a flat third here is what I want to say is going to be for a minor chord. Well, a dominant chord is a major chord, and we're going to talk about why it's dominant in a second. So we're using the three. So if this was just three-part harmony or tertiary harmony or a triad, then we would just have these root 3 and 5 and not worry about anything else. But we're advanced players now. We're not just dealing with pop and rock. We're playing the jazz blues, baby. And jazz is about 4-note chords. Making use of that scale and giving us a nice kind of arpeggio structure that then we can put choices in between these notes to give us all those fancy jazz sounds. But that's more for jazzy jazz lesson. This is just going to get us the basics through the dominant blues today. Anyway, so we need this dominant chord. So what a dominant chord is this. It's basically just got this flatted 7. You might say, oh, don't they all have the flatted 7? No, actually, this chord is kind of neat in that it's kind of like a major and a minor chord together, which gives it its character. Let's talk about a couple things about that. So normally, you would have a root, in a major chord, you'd have a root, a 3, and a 5. And that would come with the major. If you wanted to add the 7, you would correspondingly, if this is raised and happy, you're going to make the 7th raised and happy, and it's going to sound like this, right? In the major scale, the chords work out because of all the notes in the scale that you're combining. It just so happens that the one chord in the key of C has that major 7. In any key, the one chord in any major key, the one chord has the raised 7th, elegant, peaceful sounding. The 4 chord has that raised 7th, nice. And it's the 5 chord that by the nature of the scale, since there's no F sharp in the C major scale, or just from the 5, there's no raised 7th from the root of the 5th note in the scale, but that's not going to make sense to beginners, so don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. But it just so happens that the 5 chord has this flatted 7th by its own nature. And that's cool because that little hiccup there is actually what makes all this talk about the 5 chord all the time. But it's that thing that gives it that movement or propensity to want to resolve. So a beginner needs to hear that. So you can resolve from the 4. Here's an F major chord, trying to resolve to a C. Da, 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 da. So a plagal cadence, right? I believe it's what that's called. And then now you've got this final chord here that has a lot of tension, and really that really gives that completed sound when you hit the C. So the 5 is like the real cadence, or the most common chord in the scale that will get you back to your 1 chord of whatever scale you choose. Here we're doing the beginner basics. Always a key of C. Make it easy for you guys, because I'm not about overcomplicating things. We're here to make it simple. Alright, so there's that. We got this. We know that where that dominant chord comes from, and that's why we're not playing any of those raised seventh chords. You say, well, Mark, didn't you say the 4 has a raised seventh, and we're playing a 4 there? But that would be if we were playing in the same key. We would play a dominant chord and then, but we're not going to do that. Or actually, yeah, that would be then a raised seventh. That would be the 1. This would be the 5. That would be the 1. You don't have to worry about any of that, especially if you don't know it or you haven't watched the chord scale video and understood that yet. So, we're playing all dominant chords, and so each dominant chord, since a dominant chord is found in only one place of a scale, then each dominant chord is coming from a different scale, which is okay because these scales are so closely related that they will actually share 6 of their 7 notes. So only one note changes at each time, and that kind of creates the little magic change that once you know it, you're a jazz blues pro. All right, so let's find that magic. So we understand the workings of our chord, and if you said, well, didn't you say something about minor? Well, that's because minor here, which you can also have minor blues too. A minor, D minor for the 4, A, 5, E. I don't know, I screwed it all up, but anyways, all the minor chords in the key line up with that flatted 7. So your ear, when it hears a flatted 7, it's very closely associated with that minor third. And it kind of makes sense. You know, if you have the raised 7th with the minor third, you can do that too. There's no law against it, right? But you can hear it's got a kind of just a different, a smoky, unresolved sound. Maybe spooky, maybe questioning, unresolved. That is coming from melodic minor, a completely different scale system and emotion system than the major scale. So that in that regard, we're not going to worry about it, and it's a unique flavor that you don't find commonly in all our major scale music. So that's why you don't see that much, but it does exist and has a name. So anyways, very typically with the flatted third, you're going to find the flatted 7. Like you lower a tone here. Anytime you lower a tone, it makes it darker or sadder. So it corresponds that the 7th would use the corresponding flatted tone and majors would use the raised 7th until you get to this dominant chord, which is, now you can see the combination of a raised third with a lowered 7th. Okay, we get it. So let's build it on our fretboard now. So what we did here, what I did before I lost my last lesson, is we had the root up here, as you can see, and we built our chord. We looked for a 5. Since we knew we moved the root down here, and then we knew the 5 is always above a root, so we have a 5 there, because we're trying to create a jazz grip here. We don't want to play like a big chord. It's too much. There's just too much going on. It's great for a campfire with an acoustic guitar where you need everything. You need a bass and a harmony section all in one instrument. That's great for campfires, but in a setting of a stage, in a band setting, there's a keyboard that can cover some low notes. There's going to be the bassist for sure working the root notes correctly, so if they're a good bassist, right? So you don't, for yourself, why worry about it? And if you switch the root note up to the upper string, as we will see with the next 2 chords, when we do it with the 4 and the 5 chord, it's going to create a neat sound because you got this little melody happening across the top of the strings, and it's going to help us kind of see what's going on here. So in light of that, we found the 5. We know the 3 was there. Here's a couple things. Like, you should know that, well, you know where the 3 is because of your big cowboy chord here. You know, you got this root here in the major third. And then the minor third has that. So you're like, yeah, I know where the thirds are. Okay, that does make sense. So minor, flat third here, major third there. We got it. Octaves, if you're like, how do you know that a 7th is always right there? How can you remember that? You just remember your root. What's before a root? The major 7 the flatted 7. So there it is. And that gives us a, is that easy to remember that shape right there? Yeah, you say, because that's just like the D shape, D open chord shape that you've already learned. Played up here. So up and then go up a string set, 4-3-2 or DGB. And so, since I'm gonna not play this root, there goes my thumb, and I'm gonna just play it like this. So we'll go over then, let's find the other chords then. Alright, so we got this shape here. Now this shape is only going to work because it's in this area, because it's a 6-string root. If I wanted to play this with using the same shape, once again, I would be moving way up here. But we don't want to do that, so we want to keep everything in this little area here. So we're going to build a second chord, build our 4th chord in that area, and we're going to take a look in a book, Reading Rainbow. Alright, so where can I do this? Well, let's just do this right here. Yeah, let's do this like this. Alright, we're going to do that. And, you know, just for giggles and giggles, I'm going to do this. Do-do-do-do-do. Pazam, do-do-do, pazam, do-do-do, pazam. Alright, and we're going to do a little erasing here, because I'm building this lesson mostly on the fly here. So do, because I can kind of get through this a little faster now, because I know some of these controls. So we want the 4 chord. We're going to, we just know that where the other chord was there. So we want that 4 chord. So we're going to start with the root of the 4 chord, which was here, right? Now, what chord are we going to use? We're going to use the chord that goes right there. If we want a D major chord, it's basically this easy shape right here. However, it's missing that flatted 7th. What we do have is that root. And what are these intervals here? Well, that's pretty easy. Here we have our octave again, so it's got to be another root. What's above a root? Always a 5th. There's our 5th, our power chord shape. And then what missing one do we have? The 3, and we know that because that's major, that's minor. So, okay, cool. But where's our flatted 7th? Well, you say, oh, okay, well, we're going to lower that, find it behind the root, just like we did there, and we'll have this shape here, flatted 7, right? However, no, we are not going to actually use that today, but we could make this our chord. We could go not too bad, but we're missing that high up sound, that little sweet singer right up there. Alright, so let's figure out what all that is. Well, it's pretty simple. Octave displacement. Let's find the other flat 7 that's handy. Where is it? It is going to be an octave right here. Now, we're crossing the G to B string, so that ruins our normal octave shape. We have to consider our octave now is basically the wrong blue. I always forget. What blue am I using? I think it's that one. Alright, so an octave over that string is going to look like this. You skip 2 frets. You still skip the 1 string going down, but you skip the 2 frets. So, find a flat 7. It's going to be right here. Pretty cool. Pretty easy. So we're going to mark that as a flatted 7. And then we're not going to really play that, so we can get rid of it. And then we talked about earlier, we want to get rid of like the lower sounds too, so might as well just toss this one out of there too, since we found out that we can supplant that root with, I said supplant, that's he's related to Robert. Alright, so we're buying stairway to dominant chords. Alright, so 5 root 3 flat 7. Or so we got our chord there. Now, the cool thing is, since we were using basically the D, or the 4, we figured it out is going to be this on the 7th fret. You're one line with one finger to do that thing at the flat 7 at the bottom. All right. The 5 chord is always just the 2 frets up, or 1, 2. We can have the same thing. So we have that, and we'll have this. Do 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 do. I know right now this video is stretching on long, but hang on, because there's a little bit more to go, but it's just going to be so great. So we have the same basic interval structure as well here. We got a root, we got the 3rd, and we got the flatted 7th. Pretty cool, right? So I don't know about you, but maybe something is kind of looking like it did in the beginning here. Let's put that up at the same level there. And we'll go between 6 and 3. Do 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 do. So you can kind of see here, whoa, that with these chords, you can kind of see where this little tritone, there's a tritone in each one of these chords. And basically all we're missing now is that green tritone. Where does that come from? How can we know that that's really in between? This means that all the notes that we need, if we want to focus on the 3rd and 7th in our solo, then it actually is right here. The 1 is going to be right in there, and then the 3rd and 7th are going to be right there and right there. So let's go back to that 1 chord. And let's take a look at now something called the tritone row, or really octave displacement we can think of as well. But the tritone row, we want to kind of go over it real quick because it's a powerful lesson. Here's what you need to know about this tritone row I'm about to show you. The tritone row is the spine of the major scale on your fretboard. It's the backbone, it's the DNA of the major scale. I'll even kind of show you before we even play it. If I were to play this, that is all the tritone row. You see, what does that have to do with the... Oh, you're kind of hearing Why does it want to always go back to that note? Because this represents the tritone that we're playing is coming out of that 5 chord. So we're going 5, scale, to the C, the 1, right? So you can hear that's how lines outline chords. That's what they're talking about for the most part. And we just did that knowing the tritone row. Let's talk about this tritone row. Let's remember this 3rd and 7th right here and get a whole new sheet going here. I'm going to need this, and need this, and this, and we're going to bring it over here. All right, so the tritone row is what you need. Tritone row will make you bleed. All right, no. So a tritone row. If you go in any other direction, in an angle, in a straight line, you get a multiple row of different intervals. There's 2, 5, 1 is straight up and down here. 1, 4, and 5 is straight up and down here. And then if you go at an angle, you get the 3s and the 6s. A lot of different combinations that are worth exploring and knowing. But one interesting one is this backbone of the major scale only has 2 notes that keep repeating. This keeps on going. If we're in the key of A right here, so behind A is that flat 7, and octave speaking, that's going to be a flat 7. Now we have that octave jump in the G string, jump in Jack G. Alright, sorry. And then we have another tritone here, so we can see how it makes that power chord like we talked about earlier. There's that anomaly there, and then it's just basically this row. And I'm going to show you something pretty amazingly cool about this setup here. So you got that. Then we have what do we have? We have the flat 7 and 3, flat 7 and 3, flat 7 and 3. This can be any combination. This could be like 4 7, 4 7, 4 7, and sometimes it will be. Depends on what interval you're considering you're starting from. In our consideration here, since our key of our chord of the moment is going to be A, the established tonal gravity is going to be A, so we're starting from a flat 7. That gives us this interval combination here. If if we were on a different interval, we'll just make up a different number here. Let's say we were on with 6, it would be a 6, blah, 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 6, blah, 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 6. It would be a different set of 2 intervals here. And just as an aside here, I'll show you this too, like basically what I had played earlier, what I was visualizing in my mind's eye, but I'll show you, then I gotta erase it to make this clear. But if you just surround this with a square like that and that and that, this is one row, there's 2 rows, the other row will be a little different, but you get the major scale, you get B, C, E, F in the key of, not here, right? This is a different key, but if this was the key of C, you would have all the half steps in the scale. What are the half steps? That's where, here's do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Oh, sorry. It has 2. It has the 2 half steps. You can see them on a piano keyboard if you want a visual confirmation that half steps exist in the major scale. Then it creates this little block here, and the block is surrounded by one of these spines, so that's where this came from. Something like that. Anyways, so it was a little bit of some errors in there, but didn't really matter. Anyways, I want to erase this though, because we're going to need some clarity here. Excuse my dinner digestion happening here, meaning I do also need a sip of water. Must mean we're probably topping an hour right now. And I just so happen to have some handy dandy water right here. Right? Maybe everybody take a beer break right there, or whatever tasty beverage you have. Hopefully a good beverage that you like. For me, it's spring water. Alright, so tritone row. There is going to be some other magic here. We've kind of seen already. We're going to plug this into our first little magic soloing area, but believe it or not, there's a second one of these that will also work to solo with, and it gives you access to another soloing area on the fretboard, giving you a real estate area to jam with and sound like a real pro when you're doing this. So how do we find our second tritone row when it looks like there's so much empty real estate here? When you get to these, then you're going, where is it? I gotta find that special fret. But you don't, because the ancient Egyptians already took care of this for you and said, as is above, so is below. So our octave, oh yeah, we have 2 E strings. Yeah, that's going to be the same note. So we can start here, and if we have a 3 here, it stands to reason that our tritone should be a flat 7. And guess what? It is. So that means that there's a whole nother completely independent tritone row right here. The magic of right here. So we got a flat 7, and then a 3, and a flat 7. That's going to be important for later. But we want to know that there's these 2 tritone. Every tritone row has a duplicate. Alright? Cool. And so we can see here that we've got this flat 7 here, This is the one from our A chord. This is our root, or the root here and the fifth here to make up our chord that we were talking about. So we can see that if we take our flat 7 and third and octave displace them that way, we've got a flat 7 and third here. Let's plug them back into where. So remember, this is the 5, 6, 7, 8th fret, flat 7 on the 8th fret B string. Let's go back and check it out. 8th fret B strings here is 5, 6, 7, 8. What do you know? Pretty cool. We've got that tritone. We can see now how that actually happens. And we can see a little bit of the magic that's going on here. It's flipped. So the flat 7 is here, the third is here. Now, just a cool thing to know. I don't think of that when I'm playing this. I'm not really thinking that. So if you could sort of hear the progression happening there, well, there you go. Just following the thirds and sevenths correctly in this weird, closely related relationship, you got the whole blues. It seems like it's all across the fretboard happening in a little area here, giving you access to the one note that changes. We're going to see that one note that changes in a second. So, but in theory, let's just play the flat 7. So that would be, here we are on the... No, not that. We got just the flat 7s here, so... A green. Need an orange. And it's really the same green, blue, orange pattern from the top. So kind of no surprise there. But what about these threes making a polar, look at the geometry here. It's the same thing. A half step down and inverted. We have the... So start with green, Lamborghini green, and play our... Blue. We need that orange. Pretty cool, right? And if you heard I walked down when the you could see how now why the walk down sounds good when I was on the third of the 5 chord and went down to the... So we're kind of getting there. Pretty cool, right? So we got our chords built. We understand the chords, and now we understand the intervals that are happening here. And we got a mental thing going on with this visual on why it all works, which helps seal us into the deal. That always helped me learn. Is I always was like, well, I can memorize that, but why does it work? How does it work? How can I know? How can I know when they call out a different key at the jam night? How can I know if this will work? And now you know that this will work. It's just all the same structure. You would just have to move it depending on if they said it's the B jazz blues, it's the D jazz blues, it's the G jazz blues, whatever they call it. But today it's A. All right, so. That being said, we got this little play area here now with the thirds and the sevenths, and we just found out about. What we need is a cool way to find all our other notes and tie it all together. Well, my friends, the show never ends. We're so glad you could attend. Come inside, come inside. No, that's Emerson, Lake and Palmer. We've got the, pentatonic scale that we said is going to be like the magic secret sauce that glues all this together. Well, you're seeing it almost built up here. You got it here. So let's put the pentatonic scale in its place. So what we're going to do is I'm going to line it up with this, because this is where this is where it'll be. So basically we're using this shape right here. Shape you all know and love. Just kind of put it out here for you so you can see clearly what shape, because I'm going to keep the tritones in color. So I'm just going to, this is the shape I'm trying to outline around this little structure here. And really cool, right? The, what was I going to say about this? Well, you got this shell right here. This is the one we're going to use today. You could technically do this little trick with any of these pentatonic shapes as long as you know where the big box is and the small box is. So that's pretty cool, but we're not going to cover that today. We're just going to use this because this is going to give us two soloing areas that are going to make you basically a blues, dominant blues, jazz blues pro, which is the, you know, the upper echelon. This is the suit and tie. This is the Hawaiian shirt blues. This is the cool guy at the jazz night with a good Fender guitar. All right, so sometimes a Gibson, right? But I always see these guys with the Fenders, and nobody was using a Pia, a custom homemade built Pia. But let's not talk about that. All right, so we've got this scale here that we're gonna use over here. So we'll just kind of fill it out right now. Get to the point. All right, so we'll just keep that. Let's change that to gray. We saw that that's the D we were going to think about using anyways, and so that it actually is. And so there we have this pentatonic scale. Now, some players figure this out like this. You're at jazz blues night, and you're ready to do, you know, oh, I know the blues, it's my turn, let me go up there. And you think, like, all right, you're hoping they're going to play, like, E minor, Pink Floyd Animals blues, right? And you're going to get away with all those Dave Gilmour bends, you know, this was me. You know, all I ever knew just to how to use this shape to play or you know, all the solos I could learn with all that minor blues shape, and you kind of feel like, oh, it's got to be, you know, it's made most of my rock hits that I like, my classic rock hits, so it's got to be all there is. And then you hear jazz, you're like, well, this is not this pentatonic shape. I must be stuck in the pentatonic box. But you're really not, because you see here today, it's useful for this too. But you might go up there, you're expecting the minor blues, and they call out this dominant blues, and you look at the blues guy like, hey, I don't really want to sound like an asshole up here, run off stage. Can you, what key? I don't know the key of A, dominant. My pentatonic minor is not going to sound right over that. He says, hey, buddy, just play the pentatonic over the B. Use a B minor pentatonic. Oh, okay, dude. So what he just gave you is the shell that'll work over this progression. But you're going to sound like Flavorless Johnson if you play that scale in the blues night. And everyone's going to be like, oh, this guy doesn't know what? He doesn't know the changes. He's a pentatonic wanker. You don't want to be a pentatonic wanker. I'm so sorry for that noise. And I can't edit it out, so let me put this down. But I did want to my God, I am so sorry for all this noise. Be prepared for more. I'm going to move this phone. But I wanted to show you here that I searched YouTube for A dominant blues backing track. Let me lower the brightness here so it'll show up on camera. A dominant blues backing track. Whoa. And you come up with a whole bunch of listings here. I'm going to use this one right here with a bunch of chords that show up here. The second one down that came up for me, I just searched A dominant blues backing track. Let's play that. Let's wank the pentatonic over it. Sorry for not having the volume adjusted right. Four chord. You can sort of get it. Now, if you don't know what's going on, you might plug in some gut notes. Oh no. Ugh. Oh. No. Oh, geez. So if you don't know this trick, you can, you'll sound like it. Hey, let's give a hand for Jose over here and welcome him back to his seat while we get a real player up here who knows what the hell's going on. Did you study? Did you take a lesson? Oh my God. Came to the blues night, wanking the pentatonic. Another wanker. All right, so yeah, you don't want to be that guy, but you could see you could sort of get through it with just the pentatonic scale, which is cool. But let's go over the changes. Now I'm going to play it with the right changes. I'll call out green, I'll call out blue, I'll call out orange over all the chords. So here we go. Green, tritone. Oh, hold on a second. Green, blue. So my change was green to blue there. There's that change again. Hear that? When I fell down to that note, because I went from the 3 here to the flat 7, and I'm not going to tell you why. Now you can take any of the greens and work it down to the blue note, but specifically this note here, this green note is still, we're going to see it's still in the pattern in the key change for the blue notes. This note is actually included. It's this note that is brand new that wasn't in our first idea. So let's take a look at that real quick. How can we figure all that out? Well, we're going to use this pentatonic structure here, and I'm going to show that. Why don't I do this? Oh wait, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do it all by scratch here. Scratchy scratches. And we're going to go, let's reset our green, blue thingamajig here. We got this. We're going to go to orange now and do this, and just hope to hell I got all this on the right fret. I think I do. I think I do. I think I do. All right. So, well, actually, okay. So to start with, we've got the. So what we're gonna do here. Let's make some pentatonic shapes here. I'm gonna. We're just gonna make some shapes here. We don't have to line them up. And make the pentatonic boxes here. We're going to color code them, so this one will be useful when we're on the 4 chord. What we're going to basically do is actually map out the 3 pentatonic shapes that are found in a regular major scale. If you use these 3 shapes I'm showing you here, you've covered the entire major scale on your fretboard with just 3 shapes, not 7 like a lot of guitar teachers will teach you. Kind of a harder method there, I think. I mean, it's helpful to know those scales, but you can see them in between just these 3. So why learn it the hard way first? It doesn't make any sense, other than to keep you slowed down and to pay for more lessons, thinking that you're going somewhere and improving when you're just not. You're just moving slow. All right, so here we are done with our color-coded scales here. So we want to fill in this gut note area here. You can see basically the cool thing is our 1 is the balanced scale, where the lower string uses the lower note and the higher string uses the higher note. Well, if we're going to change one note for each change, and we're also going to line up within this one pentatonic structure here. Every one of these that I'm showing you here is going to line up within this one structure shape here that we were looking at on the last one, and just showing you how we can just play that whole one structure and kind of get the gist of the jazz blues without the colored tones, the cool tones, the tones that move, show that you know the changes. So here, what we're going to do, yeah, this looks like this. However, we're going to use this, and we're going to use a shape called the Phrygian shape for this guy. Now, every time we plug in notes down here, we can hang notes on the outside to build the whole thing up, and then copy the bottom row with the top row. As is above, so is below. So let's do that right now. Let's just fill in our top row here. We've got that guy there, and this one is going to have all of these magic notes here. Kaboom, kaboom, kabam, kabam. So as you can see here, we've built the Phrygian scale. Let's just complete that one first. We should know, you say, oh, doesn't the Phrygian have those 2 notes right here? And you're like, oh yeah, isn't these the squares you're talking about with the tritone row in between them? Yeah, that's them. That's the navigation square. That's the helps you navigate the fretboard. Look for all those lessons. Look for navigating the major scale on my on the whole fretboard all over. There's a ton of different. I've done that a ton of times on this channel. You're gonna have to search now. There's hundreds of lessons on here, but anyways, you can find that on my channel here. It's the most important navigation tool you could know, because it's easy. It helps you get all across the fretboard all the time with all the notes you need in the major scale, and you better believe that in some way, shape, or form, because it's always the same structure, all the Yingweis and the Vais and the Satrianis know this shape and structure, whether they tell you that's what they use or not. It's there, and it's useful to completely be able to play in, and you notice that they're never just playing these one scale shapes. They are sometimes, but a lot of times they're just moving diagonally right through that. Watch Eric Johnson do that. You can use this structure to do that, but way different lesson. So let me digress and fill the rest of this out. So all I'm doing is basically completing the octave here. The octave is, here's an octave you need to know to understand this. If you got an octave on the lower string here, like let's put in a G on the B string, or that's A. So where's my other A? Skip a fret, skip 2 frets up. So skip a fret, and then go 2 frets up, and you have an octave that way. So this becomes this note becomes this note. It's the same exact note. So this one we hang on the outside here. And this is important because you might want to solo. You can change you can solo here using this little secret in here for one round. On your next round, you could basically use like this area and this area and this area, which contains the same exact secret sauce notes. You can see they're on this side of the pentatonic, the same pentatonic shapes. You're hanging them off to the right. You're playing one left, one right, and then you have them both on the left on this shape here, making what you might already know these shapes with names. Names not useful today. Well, they're useful because we'll give each one a name. That'll be helpful, but not exactly why they have these names for like a different reason. But let's just call this what you may already be calling it. You might call it, that's the Aeolian scale, because now you say, well, Aeolian, isn't that a minor scale? Well, I thought we were playing the dominant blues mark. How can a minor scale? Great question. Excellent question if you know that. And that's because it's about root consideration or tonal gravity. Here we're not considering, when we play this scale right here, basically we're playing this up on the B fret anyways. So since we're not playing a B minor chord, this is not a B minor scale. It's not Aeolian anymore. This is what they don't tell you when they teach you these scales and you learn modes as scales. This is why I always scream when I see those lessons. It's totally wrong to teach you that. That's how to make a modal melody. But it's not about playing in modes, and it confuses you for stuff like this. Anyways, our tonal gravity is down here on the A. Let's turn in our tonal gravity. It'll be confusing, but this is the explanation. The tonal gravity is coming from the fifth chord, or the fifth note in the scale, which then gives this a mixolydian sound. So you can call this scale whatever you want. This could be the mixolydian scale, this can be the Dorian scale, this green scale can be any of those names. No matter, it just depends on where you put the root, or basically the corresponding chord. So corresponding chord is turning this Aeolian shape. It's called Aeolian because if the lowest note gives it the shape its name, but that lowest note is not our root note, so it's not that. The tonality of this is technically going to be mixolydian. All of these are going to be mixolydian scales because we're playing the 5 chord. We're playing the 5 of, here, let's find that A. We talked about a 5 is always above a root. So this A dominant 7 is coming from the parent scale of D, right? So we're playing A mixolydian, D mixolydian, E mixolydian. That's the modulation that we're talking about. And that's why these are all working. All you need is to inject these different shapes over one static pentatonic area that they all fit, because they're all based on pentatonic scales as we saw, and you get a modulation of just one note. So check it out. Like when we really consider the movement here, if we just slide this tile that way, we've got this scale. If we take this tile where the plus sign is and we slide it that way with green, in case you're looking at the screen going, where's the plus sign, where's the plus sign, because I know some of your eyes might do that. I'm in the green shape there. There's a plus sign at the top. You move that down there, and you got this shape right here, and it corresponds with these roots, or the octave of the same notes here. So, cool. We get that. So, this is what we're doing then. Now you say, well, wait a minute, Mark. I don't see the tritone there. I see the tritone here. Okay, this is going to be the, what was this one? This one had the flat 7 was at the top there. So, we got the flat 7 here. And then the flat 7 here, and the flat 7 there. Alright, cool. So, there we have it, and so here they are here. Flat 7 here, 3 over there. So you can see how when we line this up, oh, cool, there's the box again, and the box has the tritone. And the tritone here is going to be the 3 and the flatted 7. And the tritone here, oh, it's not going to be there. It's going to be in the box. And you can see if we kept, you'll see how it plugs in. I can clearly see that. I hope that you can too. That if you put this box over, superimpose it right here, like this gray box above is trying to show you where to put it, then you'll be, at that moment, you'll know where your third and your seventh are, and all the rest of the notes in the scale, which are just basically staying in that pentatonic shape. So I'm playing the blue shape now, going to the green shape. I was eating some cornbread by the fireplace, thinking about the blues, when in came a dog. He was wearing my shoes. I don't know if I can afford another pair of shoes. Alright, stupid. So, basically, there's the crux of the biscuit right there. Frank Zappa, best musician ever. And yeah, did I not fill in that? Why didn't we do that? Alright, cool. So there is the, like I said, the big kind of shebang here, and you can also play it right there. We're going to try that. Let's try this shape, and then this shape right here, and let's see if we can play that over the, try a little variety here. Then I'm going to show you, there's still one more shape based on this exact, almost identical shape, also occurs right here, because if you remember, our tritone row has 2 rows wherever that was. So we're here in this kind of shape. Well, there's also this one here. We're going to check that out next, but let's continue here and play. I'm going to play down here. Blue shape, green. So that note won't do. We're back to here. So I ended up on the wrong note because I played the blue, that note right there. Oh, I pointed to the screen. You can't see that. Right here, I played that note when it was time for the green, and that note disappeared. So you can clearly see, that this shape is relevant. This is real. These little changes, as a new guitarist, you might not be hearing, because it is kind of subtle even for me, that when you do play this note, when the blues shows up, instead of this note, because that is the note that changed, this tile slides down. It's that's the one note that changes when you go to the blue. The one note that changes when you go to the orange is this one going up. So you can kind of do a, when the 5 chord comes up, when the blue, then back to the, and you can just kind of hear it happen, bring you right to that turnaround a bit there. Just by playing those notes in that order, your brain picks up on that, like that is the structure. Those are the key notes that make up this blues progression. So, and since we're just kind of, that's what we just heard, it's kind of in the cerebral cortex there, I think. I don't know what part of the brain it's in, but I'm no neurosurgeon, but I do play one on TV, so you might want to watch that channel. Okay, anyway, so, this shape, and this shape are what we were just playing. So cool, that's our second round of, I'd probably start down low there, then I'd play this higher bit here, then I would go to over here. Let's show you this right now. So, we talked about earlier, let's build it right here. See this, based on our A chord, here's the 2 tritone rows in the key of whatever D. But it's the A, we could consider it also the, A mixolydian. The 5, the A dominant, whatever, damn it, end the lesson. No, okay, so we have the 3rd and the 7, right, instead of the 7 and the 3rd. So that means that we're going to get an opposite here, but it's still the same. Still the one, still the one. So we have having fun, and you're still the one. So then we're going to have a flat 7 and a 33. A level 33 Mason right here. It makes you wonder. And we got right here, and we got right here, and we got 3. And a flat 7 here. So this one here does something kind of cool. Really cool, as a matter of fact. So I was going to draw you some pictures down here. So here's our blues tritone group a second time around over here. When I got taught this, I got taught that there was only one there. It's like they didn't know that there was actually even a second one, that the real pros are going to know about this too. And maybe they don't even know. Maybe they over-complexify. Maybe they've, memorized some scale licks and their favorite blues guys stuff, and they don't even know that the actual whole structures that you can use to concoct any cool lick and really sound like that player that's got it going on. All right, let's get it done. So I'm going to take a tangent here. I want to show you something else. I want to show you where these 3 things, see how this comes from this square here, and then in this one there's this, and then there's this one and this. You may be wondering, we'll just go right here. I'm going to show you something here. Let's do the C major scale. I'm going to show you where all this comes from. So let's do the C major scale up the B string and then up the E string. So B, we'll make these gray. And so you got B, C, D, E, F is always next to E. There's no, it's the 2 white keys on the piano. So you got F, G, A, and back to B on the B string. And that's, let's go to C for the C major scale. We'll bring it up to D, and that's all we'll need today. So let's go back down to E here. And once again, we know after E there's F, okay, then there's G, A, skip over to the B, then C is right next to B, as evidenced on the piano, D, E, F, and G. So check it out. You can sort of see these shapes building up. I want to draw your attention to Exhibit A right here. And, oh yeah, that's where that dominant, that's where the number 1 that we just went over was here. We can see the tritone right there. We'll just put a, and then we got this big shape right here, which as you can see makes up that Dorian shape and, well, and the Phrygian shape. This one is like a conjoined, this is a Siamese twin scale, all right? So And this is what we were talking about earlier when we said this is in the major scale. Let's go back here. And, you know, basically, for all intents and purposes, without any of that annoying AI stuff jumping out there, you know, this is a pentatonic. Basically right here where we showed you earlier how to put the gut notes in, so we don't have to go over that again. And you got a pentatonic here. And, of course, here as well. Like I said, these are conjoined. So you sort of don't even notice it when you build the structure here, but there is the two pentatonics there. So this is kind of helpful to know, you know. So you got the tritone there. And here's where you always got a tritone in a square, right? So you say, well, Mark, that doesn't look like a square right there. What are you talking about? Well, actually, let's fill in that note right there. And we can see here that is actually a square there, but we're just dealing the square is broken because it's passing from the G string to the B string, and the B string everything is up one fret towards the pickups. So that is a box. It's just what we call the broken box, and then the boxes always hang out at an angle from each other. So just in the same way, I'll show you real quick here that this box here, how do I find, if I'm in this box, B, C, E, F, where do I find the next one? Just go follow the tritone row. Oh yeah, the tritone row, which is same exact tritone. This is in this what's a B and F are the tritone in the C major scale that we've drawn out here. So this is F and B. This is B and F. And then, so we would have, correspondingly, B and F. Well, not right there, but you see the tritone is here. And there's our tritone row again. We gotta go this way. Alright, so that's where all this comes from, and that's how it fits into the major scale here. Just going down just putting it on two strings here, you can see how you get the two places for the tritone to fit in there, both within these squares. Kind of cool to know, and just helps reinforce how can all this happen? Why is it happening? Why is this happening? All right, so now we're gonna get pentatonics here, but they're a little different here. But there's something cool that happens. It's really actually very cool. I'm going to show you here. So what we're going to get here is we're going to need a pentatonic, but in this particular area here, we're going to need two pentatonic shapes. So we're going to go here, and here, and here. You know what? If I want to line these up, I better do that lined up better. Oops. What did I do? What have I done? What have I done? What have I done? Alright, so we're going to do this. Pentatonic chronic. Okay, so I got my, wow, that was weird. My computer seemed to be stalling there, but maybe not. Okay, so right here we have this note here and this note here. That's going to be in our square here. Do, 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 do. So we have this tritone. This means that with this scale, this is going to be our one, our green. It's our Lamborghini. And that means that over the one, we could also use the Siamese twin of, basically, let's call this the Dorian shape and the Phrygian shape come from, just like we saw in the last page there, they come from the scale together. There is the whole shebang right there. We've got this just played separately. And then we could be up here. So you got this whole... playground for the one chord, our green chord. So what happens when we get to the blue chord or the orange chord? Something really cool. See how there's the two shapes here? You've got basically the, let me draw right there to clarify this. I'm sure you guys can get in the picture here, but you got the Dorian and you got this Phrygian scale right there. And so you want to play one, like I'll play this one when I'm going to the 4 chord. Because this is going to turn into the Aeolian shape over the Dorian side. Let's call this the Dorian side. Dorian side. And then we'll call this the Phi side. Alright, so the Dorian side, I'm going to play there, and then if I just move that one note down, this top note is going to actually become the note right there. Then all I need to do is go from this I screwed it up, but anyways, when I'm going to the 5 chord, I'll move to the Phrygian side. Then I only have to make one change by moving this note up. And we'll see what shapes we get. So basically, what shape we'll get, I'll put them on the top here. Well, we'll figure something out here. Anyways, let's start with this one. If I put this actual pentatonic structure, the shell of this Dorian, I'll get the Aeolian style gut notes. So just remember, we're just calling that shape Aeolian. Don't worry about the meaning there. That's usually associated with that tonality. So we'll just kind of consider this guy right here. And then we would have this note and this note, but that'll blur our magic notes here. So we're just going to kind of consider that. You can see how if I was playing in, covering the green notes with the square, I'm going to play that flatted 7 a lot in the blue chord, the 4 chord. And I'm going to go back to the 1 chord with the green. And then that's going to go to the 5 chord. That's the 1 chord shape. I'm going to go to the 5 chord. I'm going to move this up. See how you were ready for the resolve there? Basically the turnaround. We're not doing anything with the turnaround today. You guys can figure all that, your own tricks over that. But this will give you the secret sauce over the rest of the jam. So here we are again. So I can, what I'll kind of do here. Well, I was going to color these, but so we'll, kind of make this like a blue flavor. Kind of make this like a lighter blue. I got a battery on my electrical system going dead here. That's not a good sign. Got to try to make it through the night tonight. All right, so we'll probably need some heat, and we're gonna need some gas too. So I'm gonna get all that worked out here. Sorry, you guys don't need to know all that. Orange. Orange, glad you used dial. So I need like a lighter orange, and that's all I got. So we're gonna use this color here, this horrible ass color. So yeah, we can kind of see the pentatonic outline here. We got the we have to use the other color there because they overlap. But that gives you the orange gut notes that looks like basically the Aeolian scale. So for both of these, for the 4 and 5, we'll just finalize. We'll finish this up. So the 4 and 5, you're using this shape here in case you're blanking out on, freaking out on the the shape I'm calling Aeolian. This is what we mean when we say Aeolian. We mean that right there. So, cool. And we're going to use that from, whole step up for the orange, and then you got to move a whole step back for the blue. When you do that, you can come right across the green note there. You can connect the orange to the blue. You're going to hear me do that. You can even do it with this one too. You're going to hear me do that or the change. Let me jam a little bit one time using this shape, and we're going to call it a lesson. So. There's our magic note. See, we walked it up to the green. Phrygian. Aeolian. See, I'm nailing all those notes. Playing that tritone. See, I walked the 3 down to the flat 7. 7 up the 3. There we go. Gonna go to the orange flat 7. Walk down to that 3. 3. Green 3. So during the transition there, I was experimenting on that flat 7. Wasn't that great? This note sounds better during the turnaround. You can just hear it. You're playing that. Something that has to do with the 5 there. All right, so basically that kind of gives you the magic is right there. If you're so inclined, hopefully you can understand these shapes. You're playing the Dorian and Phrygian group here for the 1, and then you play an Aeolian, and so I'll be on this side, so I only have to shift this note down to here. Okay, you know what we'll do? Will make that kind of clear. When the blue comes, I'm going to play the blue there. Do, 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 do. We can even kind of... Well, you just know, I'm going to play all these for green, but when the blue comes, I can play that and that. And then when the orange comes, I'm going to be up here on this side, on the Phrygian side, and I'm going to include that note instead of that note, making this, once again, the 8, you're going to get the, here's what we'll do here. We're going to go, that'll be the tritone for the 5, and the tritone for the 4 will be there. And then the TT is just the tritone for the 1. So there you have it. A nice clear diagram there of what I'm doing to make all that happen with the tasty note in there. What else are you going to do? What other notes are there? All the all the white notes here are your black keys, and you can use those on the rhythm as rhythm steps. So I'll try to work some in there, but they're not the easiest thing to work in perfectly. sounded kind of... was trying to start on the white notes and slide into... They're mostly going to be slides. But if you really want to be funky and use all 12 notes and you know where they are, or you're just in between your pentatonic, or you hit a wrong note, just turn it into a slide and you get it right. And you can see how Victor Wooten's trick is once again visible, where he says if you hit a wrong note, like that one, slide up one, slide down one, you're going to find a right note. All right, my friends, that is it. So we can wrap this up as a not so long, but probably 2-hour lesson. And it looks like it made it with the thing recording all in one lesson for once, and I kind of covered everything I did in my other lessons, and I think I did it more concise, so I'm kind of happy now. And so do all the basic things, because the algorithm is not working for my channel after 10 years, so because nobody likes, nobody subscribes, nobody hits the notification like everybody else says. Do all that stuff. If this had value to you, if you're going to go be a star on blues night and your blues teacher couldn't teach you this, maybe throw me that week's worth of guitar lesson money, the $25, and that buy me a coffee tip jar. Hell yeah. Or just buy me a $2 coffee. That's always works good too. Because we need a lot of coffee, because we're a delivery driver and we got to drive all night some of these nights. And that's why one of these nights, sorry, I can't upload these things all the time, except for a day like today, Sunday, where it's the Super Bowl and there were no loads. So I hopped on my computer and made this lesson in a Walmart parking lot in Columbia, Georgia, mind you. And we got to get out of here because we stayed here last night, and I don't want to overstay my welcome. They can tow you from these parking lots. So we're going to choose some other place to stay tonight. And, because, yeah, you know, I'm a delivery driver, like an over-the-road driver. In case you're like, this guy's weird, he lives in a van. Well, yeah, I am weird, and I live in a van. It's the deal. All right, guys, see you later. Have a great day. Now you know more about me than you need to. And Mind's Eye Visual Guitar Method. Check out our merchandise. It's totally cool. You can get cool stuff for your studio. Get tapestries that are really cool. Check it out on that site. Thank you for watching again. You guys have a great Sunday. Or whatever day. And I changed my off button here, so here it is. See you later.